sense reforms to hold those accountable and to stop the cash flow that funds fentanyl is absolutely essential that we get it done right now. And unfortunately, we're here today having another hearing on fentanyl because our friends on the other side of the Capitol, because of the shenanigans at the end of last year, didn't get the bill included in legislation that would have made this, I believe, law already. It is incredibly unfortunate that playing politics is still a game played in Washington, especially on something so important. And I think, as the chairman just said, he and I probably don't agree on very much, most consistently, but I will say, having 22 or 23 of us vote unanimously on this committee, having 68 of us on the same piece of legislation, and not to have a chance to get it done, it's not just frustrating to those of us on this committee, those of us in Congress, it's incredibly frustrating to the people of our country who watch the devastation eat away at their communities. Congress needs to come together to stop the Mexican cartels, the Chinese chemical suppliers, and the money laundering organizations from profiting off the production and trafficking of fentanyl, resulting in the deaths of tens of thousands of Americans. Put simply, we should all value the health, safety, and security of Americans. When I think about the path of destruction fentanyl has carved across the United States, it's truly jaw-dropping. Preliminary CDC data shows that in 2022, 75,000 Americans lost their lives to fentanyl. In my home state, that's 1,500 South Carolinians in 2022 alone. The national death toll equates to losing the entire city of Wilmington, Delaware, the president's hometown, each year, just from overdoses of fentanyl. And for every life lost, our community feels the impact. What impact? It's the mothers, the brothers, the fathers, the children who've lost a loved one and who try to pick up the pieces because we have a southern border that is so wide open that 48,000 pounds of fentanyl come right through it. Fentanyl's destruction has impacted every single one of us personally. I would say that probably half the room knows someone whose lives have been devastated, whose families have been destroyed because of fentanyl. But let's take a step back and look at how we got to this point over the last several years. Under this current administration, America is facing the worst border crisis in our nation's history. And the president's disastrous policies have turned the fentanyl epidemic into a national crisis. The CBP reports that fentanyl seizures have soared over 860% since 2019. Our Border Patrol and DEA are working as hard as they can, seizing record amounts of fentanyl at our ports of entry and across our country. But tragically, for every amount seized, we know even more is trafficked on our streets. That's why we must take a two-pronged approach to addressing the fentanyl crisis. Number one, we must tackle the physical front by securing our border. That's why I've introduced both the Allen T. Schall II Fentanyl Public Health Emergency and Overdose Prevention Act, as well as the Secure the Border Act of 2023. These bills would expedite the processing and removal of migrants illegally entering the country and properly fund and bolster security measures along our southern border. Number two, we must attack the criminal financing of the fentanyl trade by enforcing our money laundering and sanction laws. That's where this banking committee comes into play. My bill, the Fentanyl Act, which is bipartisan, is critical to helping stop this illicit financing. I once again thank the chairman and all the colleagues on this committee for working together in a bipartisan fashion for the health of this nation. FIN makes combating fentanyl a top national security priority for the United States, and once enacted, will maximize our ability to leverage sanctions and anti-money laundering tools against illicit Mexican and Chinese organizations that traffic deadly fentanyl. Follow the money is a tried and true investigative strategy that must be employed more forcefully to combat fentanyl trafficking in the United States. Cartels and criminals that profit from our devastating losses must be stopped. And to do that, we have to hit them where it hurts, and that's their wallets. The illicit money engine needs to be turned off, and it needs to be turned off now. The Fend Off Fentanyl Act makes clear what we all know too well. The fentanyl crisis facing America is a national emergency and must be treated as a national health emergency. Americans cannot afford us to wait. I am grateful we have a panel here today that is willing to share their perspectives, their personal stories, and support for our legislation. I look forward to hearing from each witness on this critically important topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Scott. I'll introduce today's witnesses. Again, thanks for the three of you for joining us. Mr. Jason Jelly Roll DeFord is a two-time Grammy nominee and CMT Music Awards winner. He sings about and advocates for those facing drug addiction. He consistently speaks directly with and for people struggling with addiction across the nation. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for serving your nation. Mr. Patrick Yost is the National President for Fraternal Order of Police. President Yost, through his local law enforcement career, has held pivotal law enforcement leadership roles at the state, local, and national levels, and thank you for serving communities in our nation.
Thank you
Mr. Yost. President Yost and Mr. Christopher Urban is currently Managing Director at Nardello & Company. Before that, he was a Special Agent in charge at DEA. He's a recognized expert on counter-threat finance and anti-money laundering investigations. Thank you for your career. Long career serving the public. Start with Mr. DeFord. Welcome. For your first committee hearing, I assume.
Forgive me, I'm a little nervous. I'm used to having a rock and roll band behind me when I have a microphone in front of me. During the time that I've been given to share my testimony here, I think it's important to note before I start that in these 5 minutes I'll be speaking that somebody in the United States will die of a drug overdose, and it is almost a 72% chance that during those 5 minutes it will be fentanyl related. Having started that way, Chairman Brown, Ranking Member Scott, and esteemed committee members, thank you for having me. I know this is a bit of a curveball, but I like a little baseball myself. My name is Jason DeFord, but to most I am known as Jelly Roll. It is important to establish earlier that I am a musician and that I have no political alliance. I am neither Democrat nor Republican. In fact, because of my past, my right to vote has been restricted. Thus far, I have never paid attention to a political race in my life. Ironically, I think that makes me the perfect person to speak about this because fentanyl transcends partisanship and ideology, gentlemen and women. This is a totally different problem. And I was speaking outside to the media, and I gave them a statistic that said 190 people a day overdose and die every single day in the United States of America. That is about a 737 plane. That's what about a 737 aircraft can carry. Could you imagine the national media attention it would get if they were reporting that a plane was crashing every single day and killing 190 people? But because it's 190 drug addicts, we don't feel that way. Because America has been known to bully and shame drug addicts instead of dealing and trying to understand what the actual root of the problem is with them. But the sad news is that that narrative is changing too, because the statistics say that in all likelihood, almost every person in this room has lost a friend, family member, or colleague to the disease known as addiction. I've attended more funerals than I care to share with y'all.
Amen.
This committee, I could sit here and cry for days about the caskets I've carried of people I loved dearly, deeply, in my soul, good people, not just drug addicts.
Great people.
Uncles, friends, cousins, normal people. Some people that just got in a car wreck and started taking a pain pill to manage it.
Amen.
One thing led to the other. And how fast it spirals out of control, I don't think people truly understand. So many people. Equally, I think it's important for me to tell y'all that I'm not here to defend the use of illegal drugs. And I also understand the paradox of my history as a drug dealer standing in front of this committee.
Amen.
But equally, I think that's what makes me
Good for
perfect
him.
to
I
talk
like
about this. I was a part of the problem. I am here now standing as a man that wants to be a part of the solution. I brought my community down. I hurt people. I was the uneducated man in the kitchen playing chemist with drugs I knew absolutely nothing about, just like these drug dealers are doing right now when they're mixing every drug on the market with fentanyl, and they're killing the people we love. I'll be honest with y'all, my desire is to only get older and only do better and be better. I believed when I sold drugs genuinely that selling drugs was a victimless crime. I truly believe that, y'all. My father always told me what doesn't get you in the wash will get you in the rinse. Now I have a 15-year-old daughter whose mother is a drug addict. Every day I get to look in the eyes of a victim in my household of the effects of drugs. Every single day. And every single day I have to wonder if me and my wife, if today will be the day that I have to tell my daughter that her mother became a part of the national statistics. History repeats itself, gentlemen. Even in the 1990s, crack cocaine had long made its way into my middle lower class neighborhood. And at that moment, even as a teenager, you could have never convinced me in that moment that there would be a far bigger problem on the horizon in the form of a pharmaceutical drug. And then I watched opioids and Oxycontin burst onto the scene.
Amen.
I'm here to tell y'all that fentanyl is going to make the Sackler family look like saints. And I want to let y'all sit with that for a second. It is time for us to be proactive and not reactive. We were reactive with crack, we were reactive with opioids, and y'all are taking the first step at somebody in Senate finally being proactive. I truly believe in my heart that this bill will stop the supply and can help stop the supply of fentanyl. But in part of being proactive, gentlemen and women and ladies, I have to be frank and tell y'all that if we don't talk to the other side of Capitol Hill and stop the demand, we are going to spin our tires in the mud. Y'all are taking the first step, but I encourage you to take it outside of this room and you take it to your colleagues and your constituents and you give them the most that you can. I know I've got a few seconds here, and Senator Brown said I may or may not go over. All I want to say is that I not only encourage y'all to do this, I encourage y'all to take it a step further. At every concert I perform, I witness the heartbreaking impact of fentanyl. I see fans grappling with this tragedy in the form of music that they seek solace in music and hope that their experiences won't befall others. They crave reassurance. These are the people I'm here to speak for, y'all. These people crave reassurance that their elected officials actually care more about human life than they do about ideology and partisanship. I stand here as a regular member of society. I am a stupid songwriter, y'all, but I have firsthand witnessed this in a way most people have not. I encourage y'all to not only pass this bill, but I encourage you to bring it up where it matters, at the kitchen table.
It's the Big Fitness Energy Sale at Planet Fitness. Join today for 24 cents down, $10 a month. Cancel anytime and get